I also may cough.
Live from Trefford Studios, my name is Ashfin Sood, and I am alongside my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Jeremy Chapman, and we welcome you to Divergent Minds, sponsored by SSM Health, Trefford Studios. And Jeremy, who we are and what is Divergent Minds?
I love saying sponsored by it. We are a couple of child psychiatrists who go on live once a week, Wednesdays, 12:15 and 12:45 Central. And we talk about various topics related to mental health and usually children's mental health. We have excellent guests on whenever possible. And you just might see over here, I'm joined by the esteemed Grant Monnier. We'll give him a chance to introduce himself with a blurb in just a bit. And the topic for this week, very apropos to the time of year, is back to school anxieties. It's huge in child psychiatry. So if you're watching out there, tune in, give us your questions as comments in the under the feed, and we'll try to address them as we can. And without further ado, let's jump in and talk about this stuff. Grant, tell us a bit about you.
Well, thank you for that. Thank you for it. My name is Grant Monnier. I'm sorry, I'm hearing a little echo. Okay. My name is Grant Monnier, and I'm currently 27 years old, and I'm currently studying graphic designs at Moraine Park Technical College.
Awesome. It's located about 200 feet from here at Trefford Studios, correct?
That's right. Not only do I work here at Trefford Studios, but I also go to college classes part-time.
Excellent. And by the way, we're planning two parts of this topic. Today, we'll kind of focus on the older folks, maybe college, maybe late high school and stuff. And we're going to have another part 2 episode that's going to focus on more the K through 8, K through 6 type of crowd. We just want to break it up like that. So, and Ash, jump in whenever, but just since you mentioned MPTC, so you're getting ready to restart classes at any day, any week?
Yes, I'll be going back for my next semester on August 21st. I currently have 2 semesters left until I'll be graduating in 2024.
All right. How are you feeling about the return to school in a couple weeks?
While I do feel excited, the thing is, it can be a little anxious as well. See, my autism is kind of a package deal with anxieties.
Yeah.
So there's always something to just to expect. You got to learn the location, the rooms, meet your new teachers and students. It's just some of the things you have to deal with when you're going back into college or starting college.
Right. And that's applicable to any grade too. The whole classroom thing, who's my teacher, who's going to be. So what's your first move? Let's say school starts tomorrow morning. You show up there. How do you start making yourself comfortable with the new year?
Now, you see, in order to make yourself comfortable, what I do, I always plan ahead of time.
Okay.
See, I go to the Disability Resources Center.
Okay.
And they have been very helpful in informing my teachers ahead of time of my autism, so they can modify anything that, that could give off my anxieties, like modifying the test or letting me step out of the classroom in case I need to just decompress for a second for all the information you take in. It could be a lot.
But as you get there, you have a little bit of a plan in place because you proactively went to that center ahead of time, the disability office, and said, let's get a game plan for me.
Yes.
That makes it
always have a little plan ahead of time.
Right.
It helps.
I like that a lot, Grant, because I think what often we see as child psychiatrists is teenagers going into high school and not realizing that they're now adults and getting those extra services, which their parents might have helped them get. It might be something that might be harder to do when you get into college and you're on your own. Have you had your parent help you, or is this something that you kind of had to do on your own? And just for parents in the audience can understand.
It never hurts to have help. My mother did help me a bit in the beginning. And from there, I have been doing my best to transition on my own, taking care of my classes, signing up for my next semester, and of course, going through financial aid to help pay my tuitions for the next classes. So it never hurts to have help.
You're able to articulate a lot of the things that you're feeling anxious about. A lot of people who come into our offices may not even realize that they're anxious, let alone being able to tell us what they're anxious or worried about. So it goes a long way that you have a little bit of experience now. You know the typical things that tick you off, that make things hard for you. So you know how to ask the right question. Is that right? I mean,
Yes, that's about right. I mean, what you see me today is not always what you see in the past, because there were moments a long time ago that none of this would have been easy at first. But as time progresses and as I progress, learning all the ways that can help me get through life in college life, eventually it just sticks to you.
You know yourself. Ash, what was it like when you went off to college?
Terrifying. I only moved 20 minutes away from my house, and I distinctly remember sitting on my dorm floor, calling my brother Sean and saying, "I'm really homesick right now." And he said, "This is okay. This is normal. You're living away from home." It is a big transition, and I don't consider myself an anxiety-provoked person. So it was one of the most jarring experiences for me, because it's not just a role of being, now you're going into college. It's one of the first steps for a lot of teenagers to be saying, hey, and young adults to be independent. And that can be really uncomfortable, really uncomfortable. So I resonate with you. How was your first year, Grant, going to college, and what was that like?
My first year, well, it was a bit anxious because Marine Park Technical College, really great place, but it still was a new environment to me. So I was trying to get a lay of the land, learn about the different services that they have to offer. And of course, meeting the staff and teachers, meeting them first actually made things a little more comfortable, because if you're nice to staff, nice to your teachers, they will help you out.
Yeah.
Wow. What about you, Jeremy?
No, I remember being mostly preoccupied with the social aspect of it when I went off to college. I remember getting dropped off and so eager to define who I was going to be amongst my new students, because it's a fresh start. And I felt like, who do I want to project myself to be? It was almost forced at times, I feel like, because I want to have my, my headband like this. I want to, wear this kind of, just that was one of the things that was on my mind a lot, is I want to be a certain person here at college. And I thought about that a lot. And if I eventually found my niche and found my personality, but for me, there was a big, almost like a resetting of my identity to a certain extent. And I love the person that I was in college, and my high school was a totally different atmosphere. I went to a different state for college, and I feel like I kind of started fresh, and I was actually a lot more laid back in college than I had been. But that was a big element of it for me. It was just a whole new, 1,600 people. And who are they going to think of me as? Is this a chance for me to correct all of the things about myself that I didn't like about myself in high school? How much pressure do I need to, do things differently this time, or meet different people, or exude confidence in a new way? That's something I thought about a lot when I went off to college.
I could actually agree with that, because going into Marine Park Technical College, it's a trade school. So there is a diverse of age of students.
Right.
Some of them are older than me too. So it can be, what's the word I'm looking for? It was actually quite comfortable, because I didn't have to worry too much about, adjusting myself to the point where everyone just wants to look at me or whatever.
Yeah.
Because everybody is there to study, learn, go to their classes, and do their best to get the good grade.
Right. People are more focused on the academics and the work and the skill development than the social life per se.
Well, there is some social. They have
Sure.
their fair share of events as well.
Yeah.
And I'm currently getting involved in groups. Like I
Awesome.
got involved in the marketing group.
That's awesome.
Wow.
Okay.
Well, I wanted to use that as a great transition because, Grant, as you know, we have a lot of parents who watch this and they have a lot of children with autism and teens with autism who are about to take the steps that you took. And so, some of the questions and concerns I've gotten from parents when I have a session with them or something like that is, the approach to building a social connection in college. And, for you, are there unique considerations related to your autism that you take into account when building those kind of social connections?
Well, like I said, getting involved in groups and participating in the events, that helps. And of course, getting to know your teachers, get to know the staff members at the college ahead of time, mind your manners always. But really, just don't be afraid to go say hello. And if you need help, they will help you. So don't be afraid.
Gotcha. Put yourself out there.
That's right.
Yeah. Now you finished high school when?
I finished high school back when I was around 17, 18.
So what year are we talking? This is about 10 years ago.
Yeah, sort of. It's a little hard to explain because
Yeah.
I was going to a private school for autism at the time,
Okay.
and it was a while ago. How do I properly explain this?
Yeah.
I mean, I graduated a little late.
Yeah. Okay. Was it on the table at all? Were you thinking about college back then? What did other kids from your graduating class do?
Well, as I was going through high school at the time, I I was in Texas, so if I had to think about college, originally I would have gone to Lone Star College.
Okay.
But with everything that was going on with me, see, I'm also an eco artist. That means I take recycled paper materials and create art. So there were a lot
Beautiful
of
art.
commissions, got to go to a lot of galas and events and interviews. So even after I graduated high school, there was still so much I had to do. So I
Okay.
kept trying to apply for a college wasn't easy. I mean, I did go through one class, but there was still so much I had to do between the time, even though it was online.
Yeah. Well, by the way, quick plug for those watching. I don't know if you all realize who we're talking to here, but this is Jigsaw Grant. And if you haven't Googled that term yet, take a moment, open a new tab, and type in Jigsaw Grant, Grant. And
That's
the
right.
results will lead you to his website, and you can see the art that he makes. It's incredible. And I mean, we could do a whole episode about how you do your art, and we should, and we will. But what he was getting at is that he had that other skill and that other opportunity at the time that he pursued. How did you decide so many years later it was time to go to college?
Okay, I graduated around 21 years old,
Mm.
which was about 6, 7 years ago.
Okay.
And really at the time, like I said, I was going through a lot when it comes to building the business, the art business.
Mhm.
But the whole idea of coming to Moraine Park didn't exactly come until after we met Brian Mishler in
Mhm.
California, because we were doing an art event there at the time. And it was thanks to him we learned about you guys, the Trepard Studios
Hey,
that's
hey.
coming. And we've been talking back and forth during the COVID lockdown. And eventually in 2021, we decided to move up here to Wisconsin to help up with the new Trepard Studios and to go to Moraine Park Technical College.
Why? Why do you want to go to MPTC instead of just coming to work here?
Well, you guys gave us an incredible opportunity, and because of COVID, everything was shut down. We couldn't go out,
Sure.
go to our, art events. We just thought maybe this was a good opportunity to go. So we packed up all our stuff. We moved up to Wisconsin, and thanks to the Trepard Studios, you guys have been very instrumental in helping me, get into Moraine Park, and of course, all the incredible staff and people at Moraine
Right.
Park have helped me as well. I am currently studying graphic designs,
Yes. Yeah.
and like I said, I'll be graduating in 2024.
Amazing.
That's incredible. That's incredible. And I just want to pause again to reintroduce everybody in the crowd. We're Divergent
Yes.
Minds. We're a podcast or a production that happens every week, 12:15 to 12:45 here on Facebook through the SSM Health Trefford Studios. My name is Dr. Sood. I'm here with Dr. Chapman, both child and adolescent psychiatrists. And we're speaking with Grant Fournier, one of our esteemed colleagues who works here, as well as a graphic designer, and is discussing kind of his history of having autism and how it's kind of interplayed in where he is today. Particularly for those, this episode is particularly for us getting introduced to the idea of transitioning into higher education, leaving summer break and going into college. Grant, Dr. Chapman, you were about to say something?
Before we forget, I have lots of people who I see who have graduated from high school. Their friends are going off to college. Maybe their friends are all going to the same college, and they either didn't get into that college or they didn't get into any college. And they kind of have this crisis summer where it's like, oh my gosh, everyone's going to college except me. What do I do? I don't know if you've seen that in your office, Ash, where people get kind of like, wait a minute, where's everyone going? I got left behind. Do you see
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's teens and even adults, we do this all the time, where we pair ourselves into what our colleagues are doing, what our peers are doing.
that? Exactly.
And we draft an idea of what our identity should be.
Now,
And for
if I could
high
just say something on that real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, you may at times feel like you're being left behind. All your friends from high school are going to college and you're not. I mean, you really shouldn't let that, bother you so much, because I didn't. I mean, some of my classmates went on to college, and yet I didn't, but I was doing my own thing, working the art business, keep going to events and galas and interviews. I was building my name out there. But what I'm trying to get at is, it's okay if you're not going to college right away, because really you'll know when the time is right.
That is
I love it.
wonderful, Grant.
What were you going
You
to say?
nailed it.
I
Well,
love
mean,
it. I love it.
you did what I try to tell my teenagers who might not be going to college, is that it might feel like, I had a kid the other day say, if my life would be over if I didn't get into college. And I said, well, that's interesting. What do you think is outside of the college world?
Well,
She said,
trust me, life is not over if you don't go to college right away.
Yes.
As I'm going to Moraine Park, I'm seeing older students. I've seen students in their 30s, and I've even seen some in their 40s. You don't have to go to college right away. You can take your time.
My big gap was in between college and med school. So I took 7 years between graduating college and starting med school. I wasn't pre-med. I didn't think about being a doctor. And I was the second oldest in my medical school class. And so I use that all the time with my patients. Say, look, I was teaching English in Japan. I was over at Disney World. I didn't know what I was doing, but I was just doing things that, were keeping me engaged in life, following some of my interests. And then when the time was right, it naturally made sense. But there is, when you're in that moment, when you're sitting there and you're 18 and you just walked across the stage and had all your graduation parties, that it really feels like it's college or nothingness. Like you don't have that perspective yet to be able to realize that, like, you can go later if you want. So for those people who really feel like they're just on the edge of the oblivion, right? That's a challenge. You don't understand life outside of the normal train tracks. I feel like if you get off the train tracks, then you just can't get back on them, right?
100%. 100%. I like to play the role-playing game of, okay, so you didn't get in college. Now what? What do we do? Let's play the worst case scenario. And often kids or teens will sit with me and be like, I don't know. And I'm like, well, let's grab something. Are you just going to sit around? And they're like, well, we'll watch some TV. And I'm like, okay, for how long? And then it starts formulating in their mind, well, there are other things I could do. Some of my students who didn't go to college ended up going into the real estate business right before the pandemic, right? Turned out to be a really good gig for them. Others ended up doing a year of work study where they ended up picking up a mentorship or a tradeship in some type of company or work or something of that nature. Ended up learning a whole slew of skills. And now they're a little bit older than their college class, but they actually have worked jobs. They understand income, taxes. They
Yep.
understand, what it means to put into a retirement. They understand what it's like to live alone and actually have to pay for rent. These are things that you can develop outside of college as well. Don't
Life
necessarily need
skills.
it.
Life
Exactly.
skills. Yeah.
Exactly.
And you will be getting an edge, right? I mean, when I went back into med school after so many years of work, being part of the workforce, and many of my classmates, most of them went straight from college into med school. And so they had been in this, I don't want to say rat race, but they hadn't lived life outside of being a student and trying to get good grades and stuff like that. And I remember many moments where I was like, wow, like I'm glad I have seen the world outside of academia. I can put things in perspective. If I get a C on a test, like that's okay. And when you're just straight through like that, man, you don't have a moment to breathe. Did you go straight through?
I
This
did.
guy did.
I went directly through, and I can tell you that from a maturity standpoint,
Uh-huh.
I would often be in awe for my non-traditional colleagues who had taken time off because they
Mhm.
would approach patient encounters, they would approach grades in such a much more mature and honest manner, and they had a much more consolidated identity of who they were than
Right.
me, somebody who would only identify themselves as a student and nothing more.
Yeah.
So it's
I
really, really helpful to see that contrast.
Yeah, I'm so glad that I didn't go straight through for that reason, but even then there were times when I was like, oh man, I'm going to be 33 when I finish med school and everyone else is going to be 26. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, gosh, like what do I do with all that lost time? But I've come to learn that none of those years were in vain. And I do have 7 years of life experience, life skills that I am putting to work in my career as a physician. So I don't deal with that sense of somehow being behind schedule or anything like that. And in your case too, you have those years under your belt that other people may not have who are starting college. That's awesome.
Well, thank you very much, Jeremy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else are people anxious about? You have some other things on here too, Grant.
Yeah. Like, well, I was going to ask you, Grant, like, what are like the next steps for you after you leave college?
After I leave college, I mean, there's a number of possibilities I could take after college. I mean, I could even go for another degree in a different field. I mean, there's just so much options for me. I mean, I can't say what the future will hold, but I know that whatever comes, I will take it one day at a time.
Being
Wise beyond
mindful.
your years. Wise beyond my years.
Yeah.
If we could
I-
get people to understand that, it would be wonderful.
Well, we're coming slowly almost to an end here, but what I want to just highlight is every time we do this, we're often asking, actually, before I jump to that, I was going to task Dr. Chapman, you and Grant with a 15-minute kind of exercise that our audience can do. But we have a question. Is there any advice that Grant can give to other neurodivergent individuals going to college?
Okay, here's what I can tell you. And I learned this from my friend, Dr. Temple Grindon. Mind your manners, work smart, and don't be afraid to ask for help. That's the advice I can give.
So
I like
perfect
that.
in a nutshell. What do you mean mind your manners? What's an example?
You know, when you meet your staff of college or meet your new teachers and some students in your classroom, you want to mind your manners. You want to give a good impression, and that way they will be willing to help you a lot more. And when you come into a room, they're like, hey,
It sets you up to get
It's-
good help.
exactly.
Then you have to follow through and ask for that help,
Exactly.
which is a big thing. Where can we find more of Grant's art and other projects? Somebody asked. We'll put a comment beneath here with a link to his website because you should absolutely check it out. He does do custom pieces. We're doing a little ad for you, Grant. Why not? It's a thank
Yeah.
you for appearing on the show.
And we're getting more questions. They're asking, Grant's an artist, a
wow.
student, an employee at Trevor Studios. When does Grant sleep?
I sleep just like every other time. I
Yeah.
sleep at night,
Yeah.
and when I work hard during the day, and when it's night and I got to go to sleep, I'm out.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yes.
Well,
it's-
I
go
think
ahead.
I think this is a perfect time then maybe for exercise, and I'm going to see if you guys agree with this. We could have
Yeah.
the audience ask, especially those who are attending college or about to go into college, what do you what is life like? What does life look like after college?
Hmm.
What would that be? And to use that
Okay.
as an exercise for people who, may not be going or who want to do something more as they're in it.
Okay, I'm still going through college at the moment. So Jeremy, you went through college. So maybe
Yeah.
you could better answer this one.
And to give you some context, Grant, each time we do this show, we end at a quarter till, which is the time right now. So we like to end with a little assignment for the people who watch the show to fill in those remaining 15 minutes, since we're
Okay.
going to be logging off right now. So I think what you're getting at, Ash, was maybe people who have watched this can spend that time brainstorming, thinking, imagining, writing down what their life might be like after college. And maybe that will help inform them how they should be spending their time in college. I love that as an exercise.
Definitely.
And they
All
can do
right.
that with their kids or encourage their kids to do that. Just kind of have a vision in place. And you may find that your vision of your future actually doesn't require a college degree. But that's a great exercise. We'd love to see what people have to add. Thank you for the comments that came in.
Yes, thank you very
Fantastic.
much.
You want to bring us home, Dr. Suit?
Of course, I love to. Well, that's a wrap. We were so delighted to have you all on the show this afternoon. We are Dr. Ashwin Sood, Dr. Jeremy Chapman, and our wonderful guest, Grant Meunier. And this is Divergent Minds, a Facebook Live weekly event where we discuss everything related to mental health. If you'd like to learn more about our work, follow us at TrefferStudios.com or any of our other social media pages. Like, share, and follow to get the word out. Y'all have a wonderful day.
Yeah.
See ya.
Bye-bye.